Greetings everybody, and welcome to the update 1.63 review. 5 new cars in this one, as well as some new races there, engine swaps, new saves and the usual. So let's get right into it, beginning with the cars. That intriguing rendition of the THX sound is the Opel Corsa GXC Vision GT, a supposed vision of future GSC. Really, it's an interesting looking car, movable aerodynamics and making sensors and all that stuff. So let's see what this thing is all about. And driving it, it's not a terrible figure, at least in my hands. It surprisingly does not feel like the front-heavy boat I was sort of expecting, to be honest. Obviously it's an EV there, and you can basically see the aerodynamics at work here. If anything, the car is more slippery at the rear than it is hard to turn in or anything, but honestly, pleasant surprise. I think I might enjoy driving this car a lot. Very spirited noise comes courtesy of the Honda Elantra N23, and this is the second car from the collaboration with Hyundai in the N there. So it goes all these colors there. So very high performing car there, and why you're a very good track weapon there. So let us see what this car is all about, both in performance and customization here as we choose it. So let's dive into this thing and see what it is all about. So as far as putting a wide body on this car, you absolutely can, and boy does it immediately already add a more racy look to it. I'm definitely looking forward to making some cool stuff out of this. This might be one of my favorite cars to tinker around for certain races and so forth. So, as far as car customization is concerned here, custom parts, go to the front end here. Got an interesting set of splitters right here. So you can use whichever of those you desire. Side, obviously we've got these little heavy rails there, so you can do whatever you please with those. The rear, these little bits, and then there's that diffuser, so very intriguing addition there. And then comes the wing. There's a standard, it's wingless, although it still seems to be some sort of a spoiler on there. There's this wing, and there's this, which I thought was the N version, but it's actually to a cup car, interesting enough. And then of course we've got the custom wing set, and if you're curious, the answer is no, you cannot make it like the Elantra TCR. But as far as performance cars go, this is an incredibly performing machine there. You know, it feels amazing in my hands there. I pretty much can plant it, stays planted everywhere I've went, every corner I put it in, every time I sit in it, it just does it. It feels really wonderful and kind of quick given its, horsepower and stuff like that. It feels very quick, despite not having a lot of power. And that very spirited noise, speaking of feeling fast without a lot of power, goes to this here, the Mazda Spirit Racing Roadster 12R. Very interesting car, and Mazda approached PD to include, and not the other way around. So, an intriguing addition so far there. No tuning potential just yet, so it's only in raw form that's available experience in. But let's see what we can do with the other stuff. So as far as wide bodies go, you can absolutely do that, and adds definitely a racing look there if you want to do that. You can't do too much internally, but if you want to do something looks wise, you definitely can. And as far as car customization is concerned there, you've got these interesting front aero pieces there, and you'll notice the disappearance of the Mazda Spirit Racing logo on the grille. Sides, you have these little portions here that you can change out as you wish. As for the rear, not too much here. Obviously you'll see some disappearing badges there, as well as some custom parts at the rear. And then the wing itself, obviously you can go wingless as a default splitter, and you can also take the arrow with it. And there's the wing and another splitter there, and the custom wings that is usual. Still better than that arrow from the other game. So, I mean, there's that. And as for the performance of this car, very spectacular, honestly. You know, some say it's a little overpriced for being just yet another Mazda Roadster in the game. But I'd say given the timing, obviously, if you've already heard about what's happened to basically the person who came up with this car, and of course, the performance that this car offers, I'd say the price is quite worth it here. It's a very worthwhile addition in my mind. And that very spirited noise as well comes from the Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40V, and as you can hear, it's quite raucous there for something that doesn't have a lot of power there. One of my favorite vehicles, something that I didn't expect to come to GT7, but it's here. So let's see what's on offer with it. So with the wide body here, I don't see too much of a difference there. Maybe someone else can point that out, what it is, but overall, I'm not seeing it, to be honest. A little bit, nothing visual as far as I can tell, but you can do an engine swap, and that's with the LS7 Rampage here, so if it wasn't already subtle before, well, now you can really be raucous with that. As far as positions go, you got these bumpers you can put on, and this one, which reminds me of the ones on the Jimneys that you can use. So, interesting bumper options so far there. As for the sides, as far as I can tell, just these lights, you can move them from the front and move them to the back. That's about all I see. Rear, move the tire, and then add the tire back on. That's about all I can tell. Nothing really too different. As far as other parts, for front grille, so you can remove the Toyota badge. You can also go to a more square part and also remove the Toyota badge there. So, interesting options for the front end. And as for this itself, obviously, think this is something more for off-road than really on-track use, but that said, it feels pretty decent in my hands to drive. So I can only imagine on dirt it's going to be quite something there. And I just can't wait for the tuning potential that it has. I could probably put it right up there with both my Jimneys. So I eagerly await to see what I can do with it proper. That interesting noise comes courtesy of the Toyota RAV4 Adventure. So this definitely left a lot of figuring out. People wondering, was it an 8-speed? Was it a CVT? Was it a normal thing? Was it a hybrid? Does it have gears? Is it manual? Well, turns out it's both a CVT and it has gears. So already interesting in that aspect, and it's all-wheel drive. Now, what's this all about? So, starting with whether you can put a wide body on it, well, you certainly can, and it's really just more the little parts there, the little guards or whatever on the sides. But as far as other physical customizations there, or cosmetics, the bumpers, you can switch to this much more rugged looking bumper there. That already looks kind of cool to me. That's something I will likely probably do. As for the sides, you can have this interesting window thing, or this looks a lot like those things I've seen on cars with adverts on there. I think that's what that is. As far as the rear goes, tinted windows, you can get rid of some badges as well. And another rear bumper option. So, there's that. And then the wing, well, it's not less a wing and more a ducktail spoiler there. So, if you're doing some off-road stuff, that's definitely going to look a little interesting on the vehicle there. And the front grille, so you can remove the Toyota badge, and you can also change up the grille mesh a bit. And as far as performance goes, well, this is already interesting, and we haven't even gotten to that new portion of these review videos. More on that later. But just in this first drive, I was kind of shocked that it indeed does have gears, but I did notice that it shifted quite fast, and that's when I found out it was a CVT, but with actual gears that you can manually shift, and it's pretty interesting. So, having never driven a CVT or with gears either, that's interesting. So it's already something I quite like, and I can't wait to see what else I can do with it. So next comes the races. The Race of Turbo Sports Cars at Watkins Glen, the World Touring Car 700 at Alsace Village, the Vision Trophy at the Nürburgring, Sunday Cup at Sardinia Road Track, and the Japanese FR Challenge 450 at Suzuka Circuit. So as you can see there, all the new engine swaps, and as we already seen, the Toyota Land Cruiser immediately already has that. And I imagine the Toyota 86 GT is kind of a reference to a certain car. If you know, you know. Anyhow, Newscapes has Bolivia as the new place to have them. And very pretty landscapes there. I kind of like a lot of these here. And my favorite part is just the train mill here with all of these used up train things. Well, it looks like trains there. But another interesting addition to the scapes there. And I just like visually what these brings. Now normally this is the part where I tell you it's the end of the video, but seeing as it's an SUV, I think you know what time it is. So, onto the Toyota RAV4 Adventure. It's a naturally aspirated with an inline 4, 169 brake horsepower, all-wheel drive, 35,092 pounds. So let's see what that CVT in 8 gears does in relative to the competition. So, out of this one, here we go. And one thing you will see a bit of this particular SUV is how very rear snappy it is. It's not like the Nissan where it is front and rear. It's only just rear, so it can get a little bit aggressive. So we go right here into the ready hairpin. Should go all the way down. And you notice the way that shifting is going there, it kind of works like those sequential shifters there. Obviously it's way shorter and not as long, but that's how it's doing there. I'm not sure if that's how it works in real life, but let's see there. So we go this corner here, a little bit of direction, but again, it's thankfully a very weird loose kind of vehicle. Obviously not as planted as the other SUVs there, but obviously it's a lot more interesting in a good way because of that. And certainly a lot more manageable than the Nissan Qashqai. So we go to this one and absolutely nail that. And so we're coming up to the first row here, carrying a good amount of speed. And here we are, down to 7 there. A little bit of stuff there when it turns. And again, I don't mind some rearward slip there. At least with the rear slipping out, it means it's turning just a lot more than you want. Whereas if it's heavy on the front, then it means it's not turning at all like you want. So, into that one. There it goes, getting ready. Right past the 3-meter board, down to 2nd. Really big power out of this room. A great exit all the way to the line. So here we go. And what is the time we have? 1:58.818. So it winds up 4th on the power board, and thankfully ahead of the Nissan Qashqai. So a little avenging for the CHR. Obviously not on par with the Mazda or Peugeot, but an interesting shot nonetheless. And now, for real this time, it's actually the end of the video there. So overall, interesting content there. The cars easily the stars of this update. Usually it'd be just one, but I'd say all of them are very interesting and a lot of potential lies with them. So if you like this video, give it a like, share, and subscribe. And in December, I will see you guys in the next video.